Hello everyone. So today I will be demonstrating the 45-degree haircut. And for time's sake, I will only be cutting the back of the head. So let's get started. As you can see, I have parted off into 4 even sections, separating the front from the back. I am going to take down my parameter here. This is just going to let me create my first guideline. If I were to be doing a full haircut, the full head, I would have pulled the parameter on around to the sides as well. But like I said, for the sake of time, we're just going to do the back, since this is just a refresher. So I've pulled the parameter down, and I am going to be making my first initial guideline. I'm going to pull the hair down at 0 degrees at the length that my client wants and make my first cut, my first guideline. As you can see here, I think it was kind of difficult for me to get the right angle, so we're going to find it. Here we go. Nope, still not the right angle. We all know how to cut at a 0 degree angle, so at 0 degrees, so. So now you can see that I have my first guideline cut. My perimeter is cut at 0 degrees. So now that I have created my first guideline at 0 degrees at the length that I want, started my haircut, I am now going to take down my first section. So now that I have my first section pulled down, I'm going to make my first pie slice, and I'm going to start creating my first interior guideline. And I'm going to move all that extra hair out of my way. Be a good time for you to get a clip and get that hair out of the way if you need to. I'm going to pull my interior guideline down, that first pie slice, and find my parameter guideline where I made my first 0 degree cut, and that's what I'm going to use as my where I need to cut. That's how I know where I need to start my layers, the 45 degrees. So I'm going to pull it out at 45 degrees using my parameter guideline and pull it at 45 degrees and make the cut. I'm going to move on, make myself another pie slice like I just did here. Pulling it down, finding my guideline. I have 2 now. I can use my parameter guideline to know where to make my first cut, and the interior guideline from my previous cut. Pulling it down at 45 degrees, finding my guideline, and making the cut all the way up. I traveled all the way up at each area of the back of the head. Pull it at 45 degrees. That's why they call it a traveling haircut. I'm moving right along, making sure I see my guideline. You know, I've always said, if you don't see your guideline, don't cut. If you can't see it, don't make the cut. Can everybody see that guideline there? This mannequin was a little difficult because she had some thinning areas. You can see where it's thinner in places. But you can all see the thick part between my fingers. Does everybody know what I was doing there? I was just creating that, pulling that piece down right there behind the ear so I don't create a horseshoe in the hair, a U in the haircut. I always pull that thin sliver of hair down, and on a regular a live human, I wouldn't necessarily do that. I would pull it out at the degree I wanted, and then I would drop that bottom perimeter once I have the bottom perimeter cut, which around the ear you should already have the bottom perimeter cut. So now I have moved on to that second section at the back of the head, and I've pulled a piece of my interior guideline from the previous section, and I also have the bottom, the perimeter guideline, as to know where I need to make my cut for the next section. Moving along quickly, making sure that I always have a piece of my prior interior guideline to show me where to make my next cut. If I can't ever see my guideline, or I don't know where to make my next cut, I know that I either need to take a bigger piece of my interior guideline to help me see it, or I need to take a thinner piece of the hair that I'm cutting, that I'm working with, to make sure that I can see my guideline. Can everybody see that? That was a thin enough piece of what I'm cutting that I know where to make the next cut. I know that that's what I need to take. Always pulling that little sliver down on these mannequins so you don't cut a horseshoe. Pulling it at 45 degrees. Finding my guideline, making the cut. Looks pretty good.